Welcome back to Blender, everyone. I am your host, the Housecode Gamer, and, well, you might notice something a little different here. Color! Yes, I have finally decided to do some texturing. Though, to be fair, I suck at it. I am not a graphic artist. And to be fair, I've kind of been leveraging my modeling skills to counteract that whole thing. Not fun, but what the hell. This is the walker. Obviously, she looks very much like a Super Poseidon, but that was kind of the point. Obviously, she's got the under-mounted saw bridge, which makes room for a more compactified deflector dish, as well as a, well, 4-shot torpedo launcher. Someone is, by the way, going to clean all these up and make them look presentable. He liked the way I wore. He liked the way they looked after I gave them a paint job, and, well, it's gonna take a while, but they're gonna look pretty. Obviously, the STO era ships don't need much of an introduction. The Pioneer, obviously, the Walker, Miranda, Gemini, Atlas. Ranger, Perseus. Did I forget any from STO? I know they're in here. One ship you're not going to be seeing is the Shepherd, because that's already been sent out and made pretty. It might not look it from this angle, but look familiar? It's the crossfield. Though in this case I took a little bit of elements from the fake false flag crossfield, the Bonaventure, and of course I introduced some elements from the STD boat, mostly just to keep some familiarity. However, she is purely TOS styled, and that's the way she should have looked. Outside of the promo teaser trailer thing. Obviously, the rest of the STO era ships don't really need to be commented on. But this one's not STO era, technically. This is the Cardenas. RT Party. I would have put in a bunch of torpedo tubes, but, well, I have been trying to get these ships down to a bridge commander level standard. It's a little bit easier with TMP designs because squares take up less triangles than, well, circles. This one's the odd one out, but I have a valid excuse. See, this ship appears on the cover of a Enterprise Earth-Romulan War era Earth-Romulan War novel. So I went, okay, this ship is canon, doesn't have a lot of details, but I can work with it. And then I gave her a name based on on one of the few mem beta entries that didn't have an article. The Zeus class. Cue Kratos yelling angrily, because God of War and all that. Skipping over the Atlas, which still looks very pretty. We have the Magi. This one's going to be modified later in the future, but I'm on break. From modeling, at least. Vid work is another story, but when isn't it? Eventually I'll modify this thing to have big phaser, super phasers, more torpedo launchers, sensor arrays, all that stuff. The Nimitz, obviously. The Hoover does look admittedly a little derpy, but what can you do? I was trying to utilize as much cross-field as possible. The Angle. Preserved as much as possible while remaining faithful to Jeffrey's aesthetic. Because let's be honest, if you're gonna do TOS, you gotta do Jeffrey's. The boys over at Cryptic understood that. The Malachowski. She's got big fat nacelles, but she's more or less an Anton and Miranda in waiting. See? Miranda style superstructure here. And shuttle bays. And just enough room for a mini deflector for the Anton refits. This one's the odd one out. Now I know what some of you may be thinking, and you're right. It looks an awful lot like the Excelsior. This is the Repulse. Fast Dreadnought. And seeing as the Repulse is the legendary skin for the Excelsior class, I decided to fix people's mistakes. Typical, really. And give her the TOS treatment. Obviously, obviously after testing, the next frame up would have been just diverted over to the Transwarp program and not seen the light of day for decades. And here's another fixer-upper. Or at least another ship I fixed. The Sombra. Because, well, the USS Peregrine had a lower registry code than the Constitution. It was given a different class name. I had the excuse to make her more primitive, while still Connie-sized. In fact, her saucer shape is more or less the same as the Connie. All you have to do is just fill in this gap here, and it's not difficult. Sure, there's a few other modifications that need to be made, but the USS Midway exists. There is an excuse here to midway up all the Sombras and the Connies and any Sombras that don't have any structural issues into Connie 2s like the Eagle and the like. Though I did include a slight sweep back per the request of the man who's responsible for making these things look pretty. He's a big help, and he had something of a point. Now we move on to the Klingons. Yes, it looks kind of gaudy. But this is the D4. I hated the rust look. So I gave it a proper paint job based on Starfleet battles. Because why not? Everybody loves Starfleet battles. Oops. Klingon trifoils on backwards. That's embarrassing. Should be an easy fix. The D5. Complete with her silver disruptor cannons, though I just wanted to get rid of all the rust. she'll probably get very cleaned up. But these two ships weren't just something I made for the sake of making something. No, they were used as the basis for most of the KDF fleet from STD. And I use KDF loosely, because Jacksonian orcs. Yes, I'm better. Yes, I will remain better. This is the Kolk, the D4. D4 something. I completely forget. Regardless, she's a broadside ship, with a hint of, I'm going to kill you with giant forward-facing guns. The reason for the designs, though, is mostly because, well, historically, the Klingon Empire is kind of based on the Soviet Union. Before anyone goes, what the hell is he talking about? This is literally spelled out in the TNG Companion. At least one of them. But it should also be on memory beta. Not beta, alpha. So, anyway. As we are all well aware at this point, the Russian military-industrial complex has a hard time building brand new designs. They all have to be modernized ex-Soviet ones. And with the Federation going and progressing technologically fast, the Klingons go, okay, we need to modernize as quickly as possible. How about we just upgrade our ships as crudely as possible, like tacking more things on, just like the Russians. Ergo, you see refits like this. And Franken ships, where they're really trying to push the whole thing. This is the Charg, obviously. It's better than the clown car. D7 command pod, while the D5 pod has been turned into a giant, well, disruptor cannon array. I freely admit I took some inspiration from World War II for that one. The SEC, the D4J, I believe it is. A partial refit to shield the nacelles from grappler attacks, because nobody wants a repeat of what Archer did to that poor D5. The Bortas Blair. Some people like this thing, the way I made her look. Not sure what those long booms are going to be used for, but probably be used for something. We'll brainstorm. E.C. Henry is probably going to be pissed at me. This is the Machala, at least the refit version. See, the STD boat is ugly as sin. And is really inappropriate to look at. Fortunately, E.C. Henry fixed the ship, and I decided to give her a, well, I made it look kind of Borellish. And finally, we have the last ship, the oldest ship, the Death Crate. I love, love, love Ages of the Federation. So I made this ship look as primitive as possible while Still matching the plan form, that big glowy bulb of doom is just the warp reactor combined with the impulse engines. Lots of theta radiation. People are gonna die inside this ship. Unless you're an officer, in which case you can live inside the head module as far away from the warp core as possible. But yeah, that's the entire STD fleet plus a few extra bonuses. I have moved on to the TMP era, but I might have to go back depending on certain things. Those certain things including whether or not I get my hands on, well, more SFB orthos. If anyone has access to Starfleet battles, ornithographs, or basic blueprints for Romulan, Lyran, Hydran, Kzinti, whatever, just send them my way, please. I'd like to build them. In fact, people are wanting me to build them. I'm probably the most active person in that regard in the modeling department. So yeah, that's the entire fleet. For now. The textures may be crude, but at least the ships are pretty. Habsco Gaming, signing off.